Alright, I've had to re-record the takeoff and departure due to sound issues. So if something doesn't look the same as when I set it up the last time, that's probably because I forgot to set it that way. So we're on the runway, ready for the takeoff. We've got our radios tuned. Let me tune nav1 here also, just as a backup. As you remember, we're running the Cathedral 1 departure, so it'll be runway heading 310 until crossing radial 268 of the Palm Springs Vortex, which in the Davitron, you can see the radial we are from the Palm Springs on nav 2 or nav 1, and you can see the radial we're to it. But we're interested in the from it because we have to intercept the 268 radial. So we are ready for takeoff. We've done all our run-up checks. Throttle's full. Trim is neutral. Get the fuel pumps on. Landing lights on. And we are ready to go. Release the brakes. Be gentle on bringing it up to power. There we go. About 55 to 60. Pull back. It flies itself off. Maintain runway heading. Climb out at about 90 knots. Here comes 90. Go ahead and trim up to hold between 80 and 90. As you can see, we're at the from radial from Palm Springs at 228, maintaining a heading of 310 and a climb at 90 knots. There's about 500 feet. I'll go ahead and turn off the fuel pumps. We'll leave the landing lights on. We are in airport environment right here in the Class C airspace. So we're going to continue to climb this heading. Once this reaches 268, or these two needles center, we will turn back direct to Palm Springs VOR and continue our climb until we reach the minimum crossing altitude to continue west of 6,300 feet. We are coming up to 268 radial here. 310, 85 knots. We're going to turn back direct to Palm Springs here. So I'm going to go ahead and wind nav 1 around until the needle centers. That's going to give me an approximate heading to fly to go direct to Palm Springs. You could also just go 2, and it gives you the heading 2 to fly also. Either way works. But we need to know what radio. We're 269, we went a little back. We know we need to go about 90. So we make a right-hand turn, maintain our climb. We can switch this to, see, we're at 92 now to Palm Springs. So there's 90, and it should be having us go directly back towards Palm Springs. Wind our heading bug around. Still climbing about 85. We're at 5,500 feet. Once we get up to 6,300, we'll turn to begin our intercept course for Victor 388 out of the valley. Go ahead and lean out. We're above 5,000 now. Off from the Palm Springs. Go back around to about 90 on the heading. We won't pass back over Palm Springs. We'll be above our minimum crossing altitude long before then. So there is 6,300. So we're going to go ahead and start our turn back. And while we're in our turn, we're going to go to our GPS, go to flight plan, activate the cursor. We're going to activate the leg between Palm Springs and D-Way. We're going to go to OBS mode, GPS mode. The airway is 274. So as you see, we've entered OBS mode. We want to intercept the 274 radio to be on Victor 388. You don't want to go direct D-Way. You want to intercept the radio to get on the airway. And the radio to get on the airway is 274. So we can switch this from, and you see we're at 260 radio right now. And there it is coming over. You see coming center. So now we'll go ahead and fly 274. There is a slight discrepancy here, probably due to magnetic variation, differences in the flight sim. Alright, we are on. We can turn OBS mode off now. And now we are going to go ahead and use our autopilot. So I have them mapped to the 2 buttons on my yoke. So I'm going to push the 1 button once, and you see it goes to ST, That is basically, it holds the track or the roll and just holds the plane's angle. We go to heading, and it's going to jump around, but we want to pivot again and go to load track, which will track GPS. I couldn't leave it on heading long enough to show you due to me not winding my heading bug around. Now if I hit the button again, it would go to high track, which is for tracking ILS or RNAV GPS approaches. Now we're in a steady climb, about 90 knots still. About 700 feet up from our assigned altitude per the route of 10,000 feet. Go ahead and get those landing lights off. Don't really need them. We're out of the airport environment now. And being IFR, ATC will maintain separation for us. So we're a little off by about 3 degrees from the 274. The GPS or the autopilot will try to track us back on. It could be a wind component too. Wind is 251.20, so it is pushing. It is a pretty good wind out there. Probably wind error right there. Feet below. We're going to run about 2,300. Nose begins to drop. Power for pitch. Trim it. I want to get up to 10,000. Yeah, little thermals there. Get the nose down. There's 10,000. So we trim it to hands-off flight. Need more nose trim. And we're about there. I'm going to hit the other button on my yoke to activate altitude hold. Make it down to 10,000. I'm at 10,100 right now. I want to get down closer to the 10,000 foot mark. Trim up, back down. I hit the button, you see the blue light. Now it is going to hold this altitude of 10,000. See, we're at 273 now. We're starting to center up. As you'll see, it seems as we get closer to this point, the plane will begin to sort of weave back and forth, tracking the path we need to be making. When that happens, I usually revert to heading hold until we pass that point. Sometimes you get close to it, it wants to track back and forth. And then that's why I will keep my heading bug centered. If I need to, I can revert to heading mode and hold it. Or I can even revert to track mode or whatever I forgot the exact name of that mode. So here you see we're tracking 274 from Palm Springs. That would be the V388, the Victor 388 airway. Still shows us off a little bit due to wind. I'm going to go ahead and tune nav2 to Paradise VOR because we have to track a radial inbound for the Victor Airway to Paradise. There you can see Banning Municipal Airport, or Banning Airport, Banning Field. Now you see the plane is sort of oscillating back and forth. So now I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to go back to track mode, and here you can adjust, make it turn, and then center it. I don't use it that much, but I'm going to go back to heading mode because I have my heading bug center this time. And being 3.6, I'll wait till we pass the D-Way intersection. So after D-Way, our flight plan is going to be 255 to PDZ, or Paradise. So I'm going to turn nav 2 just as a cross-reference. You never know when your GPS will fail. To 255. I'm going to turn this to nav 2. There's 253 to P, Papa, Delta, Zulu. Got about 23, a little bit of thermal activity in the area due to the mountains. See the beacon rotating, even though there's no light coming off of it, you can see it, the shadow of it rotating around. I've never noticed that. Little beep on the autopilot, you need to trim down. Just needs a little trim to keep it level. Pull off the power a little bit, keep it about 23. More nose down. This video has gone on a little long. I'm going to end this video and come back to you when we get close to tracking to D-Way.